Have you ever experienced something that triggers a memory in your mind and transports you to a different time or place in your life? It could be a song, picture, or yes, even a video game. Sometimes years can pass without thinking about whatever this thing was, but the moment it's reintroduced, memories, feelings, and emotions wash over you like a warm wave of nostalgia. There's one game in particular that really does this for me. Mobile Suit Gundam: Journey to Jaburo. Released to US audiences for the PlayStation 2 on August 6, 2001, Journey to Jaburo would be the first of many 3D action games to be released for the console based on the series. Initially, the game was met with not-so-great reviews. It was scored pretty terribly, in fact. But man, as a kid, it didn't matter. Ignorance was bliss. The timing couldn't have been any better either. Gundam 0079 had just recently begun to air on Toonami, introducing me to the franchise for the first time. Being able to play and live out some of my favorite moments from the TV series was like a dream come true. But how does it hold up today, over 22 years later in 2023? Is it as good as I remember? Let's find out. To start off, we'll touch base on story mode.
Universal Century 0079.
The game puts you in the shoes of Amuro in the early to mid stages of the One-Year War, essentially covering the events of the first two movies that were based on the Gundam 0079 series, Mobile Suit Gundam and Soldiers of Sorrow. Prior to dispatching on each mission, cutscenes based on the anime play, setting us up perfectly for the scenario at hand, and I must say they are really well done.
Gundam Rising.
We start off on Side 7 as our young protagonist first climbs into the cockpit of the RX-78-2 to fend off some Zakus that are attacking the colony.
To move on its own! I thought it was all just unassembled parts!
Please get up! Come on! Properly, will you?
You'll pay for what you did to Jean!
The story continues, and we see Char's pursuit force the Gundam and White Base to descend into the Earth's atmosphere into an area controlled by Char's best buddy and pal, Garma Zabi. There's some conflict with Garma's forces before we get to see Char's betrayal of Garma in this iconic scene.
Hey, Garma, do you read me? Blame this on the misfortune of your birth.
Don't take it personally. Thank your father.
Char, you double-crossed me!
I'll ram the Gao into the Trojan horse. I am a son of the Zabi family. I'll go in glory. And long live the Principality of Zeon!
We get to see Amuro be sad and commit treason by stealing the Gundam.
So you overheard us.
The fight between him and Ramba Raw.
Gotta beat that guy!
I mean, seriously, of course a game based on this time period has to include this line. I found myself challenged the most on Mission 7, Soldiers of Sorrow, which pits us against Zeon's ace pilot squad, the Black Tri-Stars, and their OP as hell DOM mobile suits. Seriously, Amuro made this look much easier in the show. We see the tragic death of Lieutenant Matilda before progressing to our first encounter with Zeon's new amphibious mobile suits on the docks of Belfast.
Tank! Hey there, buddy. Like to dance to this tune?
Kai returns to White Base, and we move on to the final mission of the story, which concludes with the Federation's defense of Jaburo. The mission is sort of split up into two parts. In the first section, you have to defend an entrance from incoming Zeon mobile suits, and in the other, you fight off even more Zeons before one last confrontation with Char and his amphibious red mobile suit, the Zagak.
Are my balancers malfunctioning? This pilot, he actually poses a challenge to me. Who in the world is he?
He then has his retreat covered by the massive Zeon mobile suit, the Zok, the final boss of the campaign.
The Red Comet. He got away.
Char gets away, leaving the story open-ended for what's to come next. Overall, I would say the story of the story mode in the game is good, although gameplay and its feel may leave a little to be desired, at least by today's standards, but more on that in a bit. Playing through story mode gives a player, even one who has never watched the original anime, a good sense of what's going on as they progress through, although it might leave them asking for more as it does seem to end rather abruptly. Thankfully, a game would eventually be released to remedy that, completing the later third of 0079's story that Journey to Jaburo left out. You know, those parts that take place in space. Wink wink. Completing story mode unlocks the game mode where I found myself having the most fun with the game, Tactics mode. Tactics mode allows you to experience battles from both sides of the conflict, letting you operate up to 22 different mobile suits from both the Earth Federation and Principality of Zeon forces across 3 different maps. Although the Federation side does get 2 extra bonus missions, these are sort of separate from the rest though, as you don't get to experience the missions from the Zeon perspective. The 3 primary missions though are the same for both factions, just fought from different points of view. You'll find yourself either attacking or defending, depending on what mission you're playing and what side you're fighting on. Completing these missions gives you a score based on your performance, and depending on how you did, you get to see various cutscenes with different voice lines from either Lieutenant Matilda on the Federation side,
Results were beyond expectation. You know what? I think...
or Kurjarenko for the Zeon.
Amazing results! With you on our team, Zeon may continue to fight on.
Char also has some voice lines and makes appearances in after-action reports, occasionally lending you one of his infamous mobile suits to use in upcoming battles.
I'm entrusting my favorite machine to you. Take care of it. Teach them that a superior mobile suit has its limits when it goes up against a superior pilot.
There's a good bit of replay value here, as it can really take quite a bit of time to S-rank all missions and unlock all the various mobile suits. There's a good bit of variety amongst them too. I particularly enjoyed getting to try out the Guff and Char's Zaku and Zagath. It was a nice change of pace after being in the RX-78-2 for the whole story. If you enjoy the gameplay, you could definitely spend a fair amount of time here. And that brings me to the last thing I'd like to discuss, gameplay. TLDR, I'd be lying if I said that the gameplay translated well to modern day. I'm not saying it's bad, but it wasn't quite exactly as good as I remembered. But why not? Well, there's a number of reasons, honestly. First, let's discuss movement. Mobile suit navigation is controlled by using a combination of the D-pad and the L1 and R1 bumpers. Pressing up or down on the D-pad makes you move forwards or backwards, while pressing left or right makes your suit and camera turn respectively. The right analog stick also allows you to move your camera to dictate what you're looking at to a certain degree. The bumpers are how you strafe left and right, and can also be held down while moving to add a certain amount of diagonal motion to your movement. Double tapping any of the movement inputs allows you to do a quick dash left, right, or backwards, and double tapping and holding forward on the D-pad allows you to continuously dash forward as long as your boost gauge isn't full. These same controls also apply while in the air, which I may say there is quite a bit of vertical freedom allowed in the game. By using the X key, you can send your suit into a boosted jump and continue to tap X to boost up high into the air, allowing you to get to some insane heights. You can boost on top of buildings, right atop the white base, or even a Gal attack carrier if you so please. Verticality is a huge part of combat in this game. Boosting into the air and strafing around makes you much harder to hit. It's almost a requirement for avoiding damage in some scenarios, while at the same time allowing you to rain down machine gun, rocket, or beam rifle fire from above. L2 is used to lock onto your opponents and, in my opinion, is essential for tracking and hitting your targets. It does a fairly good job of helping you do so, although sometimes it will fail to track something if it moves quickly by you or you move quickly by the target, but that's understandable. It can just feel painfully slow at times to turn your suit to reacquire a lock. Ranged combat feels fine, I would say. There's nothing particularly exciting about it by today's standards, but it's solid. Depending on what weapon you use, you'll feel a vast difference in effectiveness as you spam attacks at the enemy until they finally start crackling with electricity before exploding. Balancing firing your weapon with strafing and using your shield to block incoming attacks while on the ground feels good, although as mentioned before, boosting and going into the vertical can really negate your opponent's ability to pose any real significant threat to you. Melee combat was probably my least favorite aspect of gameplay, and it's a shame because it's by far the most effective. And it's kind of funny because I remember having the same issue back when I was a kid playing this. Sometimes your melee inputs just don't seem to work as intended, whether trying to do a downward stab or slash while airborne, or attempting to just use the basic 3-attack string combo on the ground by spamming square square square. It just doesn't always seem to work as intended. I don't know if it's a timing thing, a skill issue, or just something with the game. I'd be really interested to know if anyone else had the same experience with it. Now, don't get me wrong, this didn't prevent me from using the Beam Saber, Heat Hawk, or other melee weapons as often as I could, but it was just frustrating at times. The melee feels a little clunky, especially when compared to a slightly later PS2 title from the series like Gundam vs. Zeta Gundam. Overall, the gameplay definitely felt dated, especially in the beginning, but as I progressed through the story and tactics battles, I started to get the hang of it and almost began to think of it as a good representation of what controlling a massive mobile suit might actually be like. It wouldn't be a smooth or easy experience at first, it would be clunky and imprecise, especially if you weren't in a more advanced mobile suit. But maybe that's just me coping with the fact that the controls felt a little old and dated. What do you think? Did you play Journey to Jaburo back in the day? Do you have fond memories of it? How do you think it holds up now? Let me know your thoughts down below. This is Jarbo Gaming. We'll see you on the next one.